Hi, I'm Kristen Bettin. I'm an Associate Professor of Pediatrics and Medical Education for the College of Medicine and the Senior Assistant Dean for the Clinical Curriculum. I wish I knew then that you don't have to know everything. So I've always been interested in teaching and mentoring and advising, and that really started as an undergraduate student. When I was an undergraduate student, I was a teaching assistant for an early childhood center. I was a tutor and a mentor to elementary school students, primarily for reading. And then I also worked as a chemistry TA. Throughout those experiences, there was always a very specific topic or learning activity that we were doing, and I was able to really anticipate the questions that my learners would ask or the things that we would need to do for the session. And then fast forward a little bit to medical school. I still enjoy teaching and mentoring and advising more junior students. I also worked as an MCAT prep instructor, and there weren't any opportunities there for them to ask me questions that I wouldn't have the answer to, really. It wasn't until I became a resident and I saw just the wide vast of information that there is in medical education that I really began to understand my learners are going to ask me questions that I don't know the answer to. As a resident, I enjoyed teaching my students, my junior learners. I would typically have, and I really looked up to them for that. And I really wanted to be able to emulate those professors and attendings when I became an attending. Then I became an attending. And there is nothing more humbling than being a first-year attending with learners of all different stages. I began to be a little bit nervous and maybe stressed or anxious about the fact that my learners might ask me questions that I didn't know the answer to. And this was really the first time that I felt like a true educator because I'm an attending. I have to know the answers to my questions. They might figure out that I don't know what I'm talking about or that I shouldn't be here, so I must know the answers to all of their questions. So I would spend time, getting things together, making sure I had all of the information for any talks or presentations that I was giving, or even just reading up extra on my patients to make sure that I knew everything about their disease processes and treatment so that when my learners ask me questions, I'll know the answer on rounds. Okay, so that's great. And then we get to rounds, and inevitably, your learner is going to ask you a question that you have no idea what the answer is. And so at that time, you have to sort of think about how you're going to handle that situation. And it can be a little bit anxiety-provoking, a little nerve-wracking to have your learners ask you a question and you don't know the answer to it, and you kind of have to stand there and say, I don't know. And it's taken me a while to become okay with that and to learn that it's okay to not know everything. I've used that as a way to engage my learners in their own learning. So, for example, you can, if your learner asks you a question and you don't know the answer, you can say, that's a great question. And let's run a search and let's see if we can come up with this answer. And you can use that as an opportunity to role model how you, as the attending physician or the educator, actually work through and solve problems and find answers to things that you don't know about. So it's a great opportunity for role modeling. It's also a great opportunity for you to role model how you might critically think through a problem or a question at the spur of the moment. So you can take your learners through, that's a great question. I'm not exactly sure of that answer, but let's think about this other case that's very similar and see if we can get to the answer that way. The other thing I like to do is it's an opportunity to turn it back on your learners a bit and have them look for those answers too, so you can say, that's a great question. And it also shows them that, hey, you did the work too. You went and you looked up the answer and you came back with information too. So what I hope to get across to all of you today is that it's okay to not know everything. And it's okay to say, I don't know, but hey, let's find out together, or let's go get that information together and talk about it. Thank you all for listening today.